council persons?
Everyone's supposed to be on that side, you can balance it out a little bit.
Where's our public safety folks?
On that side?
Public safety folks, can you guys come on over on the other side?
Yeah, but don't break the podium or trip over the wires.
Town side over there.
We need like music.
Chief, we got it.
Chief, it's okay, Chief. You good? Everybody's good? All right, good afternoon, everybody. We're here in Rocky Hill to announce that the state of Connecticut and the Office of the Attorney General has commenced a formal investigation into Concierge Apartments, its management and ownership, Century Hills, and JRK, to get to the bottom of what's happening at Concierge in Rocky Hill. We were on site late last week. And let me just start out by saying I hope that the families and the residents and the tenants who have been displaced are safe and are well taken care of wherever they are. I can't believe we have to say that, but many people are still in temporary housing, in hotels. Many people are out of pocket, lost food, lost medication, lost time at work. I'm sure people are scrambling with respect to, kids and getting their kids to school and getting them their books and making sure they get to practice. And it is hard to overstate the amount of disruption that this has brought to the people of Concierge and the town of Rocky Hill. Most of the leadership of the town is here, and they've been on it, not just over the last few days, but for a very long time with Concierge. And so I just want to thank town officials and my very good friend, State Senator Matt Lesser and State Representative Kerry Wood for being on this for a long time and for being a really good partner throughout all of this and taking me to the site last week so I could better understand what's happening right now at Concierge. I will let the deputy mayor and the state senator go through some of the details of what's happening, but suffice it to say, we essentially had a meltdown at Concierge over the last week or so, couple of weeks, and pipes were bursting, and residents were moved out, and buildings were shut down. And I just want to say that I spent a good part of Super Bowl Sunday before I got a letter, which I'll discuss in a second, from Concierge. But I spent a good part of the afternoon on my own roof trying to deal with ice dams. I don't know if I was effective in doing that or not, but I've already had some leaking. And the one thing every homeowner, building owner, operator is worried about in the winter is freezing pipes, right? Everybody knows that. It's like on the first page of home ownership and building maintenance. And I think it galls me and shocks us that we're here right now having this conversation. How did we get here? How is it, Concierge, that you didn't know that pipes could freeze and burst? And how did you not know that this could impact heat and hot water? And the habitability, the ability of people to live in their homes, not your apartments. They're not just tenants, they're not just numbers, they're not just dollar signs. They're people, they're families who live there. And now they're homeless, effectively, until you make it right. So it continues to confound me how we got here in the first place. We shouldn't be here. And it's the result of years and years it's clear to me, of deferred maintenance and neglect. That's why we're here. And that's why people are suffering. And because of that, in this investigation, we are literally going to bring the heat to Concierge and Century Hills. No pun intended. Hopefully we'll bring actual heat very shortly. But we are going to bring the heat to hold them accountable because this crisis did not happen overnight. You may recall that Senator Lesser, Representative Wood, Connecticut Public. You may recall that Senator Lesser, Representative Wood, and I, and town officials and the mayor were on site, and we also sent a letter, me and the legislators, to Concierge. And we got a letter back from a lawyer for Concierge, a Connecticut-based lawyer, that I said at the time wasn't just tone deaf, it could only be described as callous and indifferent. And that's being generous, okay? And one of the things they said was, oh, they've spent $22 million, over however long they've owned this property, and they've been spending $2 million to deal with this situation. I don't care what it costs. It clearly isn't enough, okay, whatever it is. I don't know what you spend that money on. And you've put a price on the safety and security of your residents, which you're clearly unwilling to pay, right? So that response was utterly, utterly unacceptable and did not advance the ball whatsoever. So we then sent another letter, in which this was on Friday, in which I made a series of very clear demands, all right, on behalf of the state of Connecticut and the people of Rocky Hill and the residents and tenants at Concierge. Number one, they half-heartedly offered 1 month's credit to a limited band of tenants, I think, okay? And I said, no, not good enough, right? And I said, you've got to do much better than that. I said, this is the result of years and years and years of neglect. And you should offer much more than a month, maybe up to a year. And so I made that demand. Number two, I said that tenants should be immediately reimbursed for their out-of-pocket expenses, food, lost time at work, daycare, right? Lost medication, utilities that they have to pay for but that they're not receiving, all of that. And then their response was, well, okay, but tenants are required to have renter's insurance, so they should make claims to their insurance company. No, that is not the answer. That's why I said this response was so callous and indifferent. Give me a break. That's not the responsibility of tenants, people, parents trying to just live their lives who are scrambling to make it happen for themselves and their families. Don't tell them to go make a claim to the insurance company. And on top of that, all of these costs, of course, that are being paid for by the town of Rocky Hill. What about that? What about the taxpayers of Rocky Hill? And then I also made the point, which is really important, that Concierge and their corporate owners, a $15 billion private equity-backed real estate conglomerate, all the way in Los Angeles on Wilshire Boulevard, they are in breach of their obligations, I think, as a contractual matter. They are in breach of their obligations to their tenants, their renters. And I believe that a Connecticut court would find these leases to be voidable. People should be able to get out of their leases if they no longer want to live at Concierge. So, we've commenced this investigation, And we are going to take it all the way to understand what has happened, what's happening now, and we're going to stay at it and press concierge until they make it right. I do want to acknowledge that in the interim, last night I got a text message from one of their lawyers during the game. And it was thankfully a diversion from watching the Patriots last night. But I got a text message, so I have to acknowledge the efforts that they were sending me a letter. And in the letter, they offer and agree in part to a number of the demands that I have made. They finally said, this is from the general counsel of Concierge. He said, your suggestion that Century Hills do better, which is what I said, do better now. He said, your suggestion that Century Hills do better has been heard and communicated to all employees. Okay, thank goodness, finally, that's been made clear. He also said, to be fair, that they wanted to apologize and that the company JRK Property Holdings deeply regrets what's happened to the residents. That's a start. And then Century Hills committed in writing, quote unquote, Century Hills will fairly compensate all affected residents. We hope so, and demand that you do. And we're going to ensure that you do and hold your feet to the fire. They have also indicated that Century Hills will also provide 1 month rent credit to all residents, okay? An additional 1 month rent credit or ability to break leases without penalty for residents who have lost hot or cold water, and reimbursement of residents' out-of-pocket costs, including for lost food, medication, alternative child care during the period that they were displaced from their apartments. Residents will not need to file claims with their renters insurance carriers. This is a start. I appreciate the response. I want to credit their responsiveness to my letter, but I don't have to tell you that notwithstanding this letter and the good faith in which I receive it, there's not a lot of trust right now. In fact, there's no trust between at least me, and I know I speak for the senator, and others in this community, and Century Hills and JRK, okay? So they have a lot of work to do to restore trust that has been eroded for a very long time. But my hope is that this is the start of a discussion and a negotiation about how they are going to make this right. And we are not going to stop until they do. Final thing I'll say is they have offered to send senior leadership, the very most senior leadership, to Connecticut to meet with me as part of my investigation. I will take that meeting, and then I will then take it from there and see whether that meeting gives us, and frankly, the residents, any more relief and the relief that they deserve. So I want to thank the town for your extraordinary work. Everybody, boots on the ground. Thank you, Chief, Fire Chief, and emergency services and first responders. This is such a difficult situation. We really shouldn't be here, but here we are. And together with our investigation, the Office of the Attorney General, and all of you, we are going to do everything we can to help and protect these residents. And so with that, let me introduce Deputy Mayor Miriam Thoreau.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Our primary focus this past week was to take the residents of Concierge out of a dangerous, unlivable situation to a safe environment. Our town employees, in coordination with our town manager, and in particular our Human Services Director and her staff, our fire marshals, our emergency management director, our building officials, fire and police, and our superintendent of schools, went above and beyond. Our state representative, state senator, and AG Tong were also instrumental in getting safe accommodations for our concierge residents. And additionally, there were several local businesses, organizations, elected officials. I don't think Zach made it home at all last week. And residents stepped up to provide packing and moving supplies, food items, hot meals, gift cards, as well as providing vital information, encouraging words, and hands-on assistance when needed. We were successful. However, the work is not yet finished. The residents of Concierge, not by their own doing, were placed in an untenable situation, and that is unacceptable. Yes. Our goal now is to ensure that these residents are justly compensated for the disruption of their lives, as well as the unexpected financial burdens and just general disruption of their total lives and of their families. We are so fortunate to have Attorney General Tong spearhead this initiative. I can assure you that we, and that's everyone here standing shoulder to shoulder, are ready, willing, and able to work with AG Tong and our state and federal elected representatives to obtain our goal of a fair resolution for our concierge residents. In closing, and as a personal note, I have lived in Rocky Hill my entire life, and I am so proud of how our community, Rocky Hill, stood up and backed these people in their time of need. And I want to tell the residents of Concierge, we are all still standing behind you, standing with you, and we are not going anywhere until we succeed in getting you fair compensation. Thank you. And now, Senator Lesser.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Theroux, and of course to our extraordinary Attorney General. I am so proud to represent this community because when this man-made disaster, right? We have weather for, certainly bad weather, but this was a man-made disaster. And when it hit a couple weeks ago, this community came together like we've never seen before to take care of our neighbors in need. And I have heard from so many I can't even begin to tell you. They've gone through a trauma. They've been traumatized by the lack of heat and hot water and cold water, by the displacement. Some of them have medical needs. Some of them have had to be separated from their children. They've had all sorts of issues that they've had to navigate. They've had significant property damage and all sorts of disruptions. And this has been really hard. And the community has come together, led by Mayor Alan Smith and the council and our great town manager and our Human Services Director, who we'll hear from in a minute, to come and support the community. And you've had faith communities come together. You've had businesses, all sorts of folks in this community come to donate funds and resources to take care of one another. This is also a big burden on the town because right now there are hundreds of residents, maybe over 1,000 who are displaced all across the state. There are folks as far away as Naugatuck and Vernon, but who have to get to school in Rocky Hill every day. And so the town of Rocky Hill has to find and send school buses out to try to find these kids and bring them to school each and every day. There are all sorts of utility expenses that folks have had to have by cranking up their heat at the instruction of their landlords to try to keep the mold, the humidity under control. This has been and continues to be a huge trauma. This is not, unfortunately, the first time that this has happened. We've had issues with burst pipes, exactly this issue, in this specific facility over a number of years. This is not the first time this has happened. This is the worst time. This is the worst instance. It certainly affects every resident. Now, that's never happened before. This is not the first. This is the worst. This better be the last. Yeah. And one of the things, there are a lot of things that are different about this. The scale of the community response is unprecedented. The town has come together to say enough is enough. But one thing that is also very different is that we have William Tong on our side. And I got to tell you, if you look at the history, the Attorney General's office in Connecticut doesn't usually get involved in landlord-tenant issues. But the scale of this crisis, the scale of the problem, the impact on residents is truly unprecedented. And we are so grateful to have William Tong as Attorney General fighting for the people of Rocky Hill, fighting for the residents of the concierge apartments, and so glad that he is getting those tough answers that we are all asking for. Look, we have more work to do going forward. this evening at 6 p.m., we're going to be sitting down with the Connecticut Fair Housing Center. We have a virtual roundtable for residents to talk to lawyers and sort of hear about what their legal options are above and beyond the offers that JRK has made in this letter. There are still unresolved issues, but we are making real progress, and we're making real progress because we're standing together, because we're demanding accountability, because we're saying enough is enough, and because we got William Tong in our corner. Thank you very much.
So I think our Human Services Director, no, not today, okay, all right, questions?
A couple over here. First of all, just for clarity's sake, do you have a rough number of how many people have actually been displaced? We understand it's about a 500 plus apartment unit, but do we have a number of how many people were actually?
This is such a moving target. Does anybody have a real-time sense of that? 540. 544 units.
544 units,
Yeah.
and you said it was about 2,000.
Approximately 2,000 people is what concierge said.
Okay.
Approximately 2,000 people. And this might actually be better for a town official to answer, but we've been hearing from a number of people, miscommunication has been a big theme this past week, right?
Yeah.
We've been hearing from a number of people who are concerned about their current hotel stays. We're hearing people have deadlines of Tuesday or Friday. It seems very confusing, and obviously, people are being thrown in different hotels all around the region. Is there anything you can say of assurance to those people that they are not going to get kicked out tomorrow of their hotel?
I don't know that the town can speak to that. Suffice it to say, this meeting with concierge, well, we're talking with their lawyers right now, and I will reinforce the message. You better honor your obligations to people, and there better not be any additional pain, trauma, or suffering, like throwing people out of their hotels. I would be shocked at this point if they made it worse, but of course, with this crew, who knows? But I will be sure to make that demand when I speak to senior management.
Do you have a date or time?
Yeah,
Do you want to introduce yourself?
no, I'm sorry. Ray Carpentino, Town Manager. We are hearing back from these hotels that they are making arrangements already to extend these stays. So as of now, it's working out okay, so.
I just bring it up because we've
Yeah.
had people reach
Sure.
out to us saying like, hey, we're hearing from my front desk of my hotel that,
Yeah.
we're getting kicked out at Tuesday, but yes.
And doesn't state law, the Universal Relocation Assistance Act requires that the town have some funds to put folks up if they're relocated because their home is not habitable? And if so, if I'm correct in that interpretation, what is represented?
So I'm not gonna, give you a legal opinion on the fly, but suffice it to say, the town's doing everything it can. We're doing everything we can to hold this company accountable and to take care of these residents.
Attorney General, what makes this different from other apartments where folks are displaced because of poor conditions?
I, in my 7 years, have not seen something this extreme, I don't think. And if I had, it's been a while. No doubt there are issues with housing across the state, but this is a particularly extreme example.
So there's at least 544 units. Most people are asked to leave the premise, right? But some people are choosing to stay. Is that something we recommend?
Ray Carpentino, Town Manager again. Our building official has ordered the evacuation of all the units, so there are no overnight stays in that building. People have been allowed to come back and, pick up some of their belongings or water their plants, but no, they're not allowed to stay overnight.
To Ginny's question, though, what about this situation, aside from scale, triggers, in your view, nexus to CUPTA and the ability for you
It's
to-
freezing outside. -2 yesterday. People are in deep trouble. And so it's not hard to get off the bench, right, and get in the game. So there's no magic formula here. People are suffering. That's why the Attorney General got involved.
You say you've done a walkthrough of this property?
I didn't get a walkthrough. I was on site. I could see tarps outside of the building on the lower level. So I haven't done a walkthrough, no.
But have your investigators or DCP investigators at any point been on
I'm
scene?
not going to comment on the specifics of the investigation.
Can you describe what provisions of CUPTA allow you to have an
We've
investigation like this?
we've commenced an investigation. I've sent a civil investigative demand to JRK and Century Hills, and everything's on the table.
And are they, for the purpose of the investigation, wed at the hip, JRK and Century Hills, or are there differences in the level of respondent given the responsibilities they may have had?
This
for
is a $15 billion real estate conglomerate with all the resources in the world. I assume they can afford gold-plated legal counsel and lawyers. And my assumption is that they're all operating together and that at some point soon, like in the next 24, 48 hours, somebody of authority with the power to make decisions and to tell us what they're going to do is going to speak to me.
In your letter on Friday, you mentioned that there have been 3, I think, deaths in the last year at this apartment complex, including one a couple weeks ago during the big storm. Can you tell us what you know about those, or if they're at all related to the conditions in the buildings?
So I'm aware of 3 fatalities. I'm not able to say whether they're related to these conditions or not. There's obviously public reporting, and there are, to the extent that they're available, police reports and public records about those fatalities. But I made the point because there are 3 fatalities on this property, and including one the last couple of weeks. And it's my understanding that because of maintenance failures at the property, that emergency responders had a hard time getting out, and that the town of Rocky Hill and the fire department had to deploy its own resources to remove snow and to get in and out, which is not acceptable. Anybody else? Yes.
Attorney General, can you talk about a little bit about your investigation, what you're looking for, and then what some of the options would be?
I can't speak to the specifics of the investigation except to say that we're going to get to the bottom of what's happening over there. Why does this keep happening? And what are you guys going to do about it finally? Why did it take all of this and all the buildings for one reason or another being evacuated and frozen pipes left and right? Why did it have to come to this? That's the point of the investigation.
Any kind of timeline for the investigation?
As soon as possible.
Is there anything being done to enforce the evacuation? We spoke to people today who said they're still living there despite the evacuation.
I don't think we can speak to that. I don't have a real-time sense of that. Yes?
Could I ask you something off topic about the passing of William Ferrigno? Over the weekend, I understand rather wanted to ask what this meant for people whose money he took, part of that criminal case.
Well, why don't we, I will take that, I'll take that off topic afterwards. Anything else? All right, thanks, everybody.